So today we're going to talk about what I think is a pretty interesting topic. When should you quit trading? Trading is very hard, especially if you're in the beginning of the journey. You know this. And even if you're kind of somewhat into it, you realize that it's a constant grind. I'm 5 years into this, and it's an ever learning thing. You never perfect the market. You never really become your best. It's always a work in progress. And especially right now where things are a little bit more difficult compared to 2020 and 2021. So anybody who came to the market in those years right now may be having a little bit more difficult of a time. So I think this is going to be really good to talk about. So is this something that you want to do full-time or part-time? That's a very important question to ask, because if this is something you want to do full-time, that is substantially more difficult to do. Personally, I don't think anybody should make trading their only source of income. I think part-time is the easier way to go. When it comes to social media, it's pretty toxic. It makes it seem like if you're not a full-time trader and this is the only way that you make a living, it's not the right way to do it. I think that's pretty crazy. I think that even if you make a lot of money trading, I think there should always be some sort of additional income, whether that be a part-time job or even a full-time job that's flexible with the schedules, or even having some sort of part-time job. So maybe you get to a point where you feel like you're making okay money and have some consistency in the market. I still think doing something else in addition is always a good thing. So even if it's like a part-time job or a hustle where you go get a job at something you're more passionate about, maybe it's like helping animals, you don't make a ton of money doing it, but it's still an income. Or you have a part-time hustle. Like I used to sell stuff on eBay. I was flipping stuff on eBay, making a few bucks, and it was a way to have other money coming in. So I didn't feel the pressure to have to trade, and that was my only source. And there's a lot of other cool things available out there because it's a gig economy now. Things like driving for Uber, doing Postmates, things like that, where it's still a part-time gig, but it's not necessarily a job. So there's a little bit more flexibility, and between trading and those things, it's a great combination. So figuring out whether or not you want to go full-time or part-time is very important. Even if you feel like you're capable of going full-time, building something else on the side is always going to be a good thing. So I think that if somebody says, I'm going to go part-time, where I'm going to make sure that I have other sources of income, I think the probability of success goes up. So that's something you're really going to want to figure out. And I know it's nice to want to think that I'm going to trade full-time, I'm going to have all this freedom, I'm going to do nothing else, but it's incredibly stressful and it's not easy. So whether or not you go full-time or part-time, I think that's going to be very important to think a little bit deeper about. Now let's get to the next topic. Is this a serious career or is this a hobby? So YOLO, right? You want to get long AMC, GME, you want to make a ton of money. I know within the last few years, the market's got kind of crazy where people just buy calls and they always think that the market is going to go up. That's not how it works. The last couple years have been incredibly easy. The market is not always going to be like that. And if you're not prepared, it's very easy to give any sort of money you made within those last 2 years back. So a very important question to ask, is this a true passion or are you in it for the quick money? Did you have a coworker or a friend or a family member who said they hit it big on some crazy short squeeze stock, so now that's why you're interested and the only thing you care about is getting rich quick? If that's the case, which there's nothing wrong with wanting money. I want to make as much money as I possibly can make, and I think everybody should want to make as much as they can make. But if you're only in it for the money, I don't think this is going to work. You have to be kind of crazy to want to wake up and trade every single day because it's constantly different and there's no real stableness to it. So you have to be passionate because it's going to get tough. And during those tough times, are you able to persevere and continue through when it's not easy? Because if you're not able to go through that grind in times where it's a little bit more difficult, then this is going to be really hard to be successful in. And that's the big difference between wanting it to be a serious career and a hobby. When times get tough, you stick with your career. If it's just a hobby and you were in it for the money, you're going to quit really easy. So now let's talk about the next topic. Are you really patient and committed? This takes years to find consistency. I know some people are able to find consistency sooner than that, but I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of traders, and also myself. The commonality between all of it is that it took about 3 years to really figure it out. And when I mention that to some people, it seems like a long time. But if you really think about it, it takes 4 years to get a college degree, and you don't really learn much from that degree. So if you sacrifice 3 to 4 years to learn this skill set, it could potentially pay you for the rest of your life. So you really have to be committed. I think the right mindset is that I am willing to commit 3 years without making any money in order for this to work. And that's where the first part comes back into play. If you have a part-time job or a lot of money saved or a full-time job that provides some flexibility, you're able to kind of grind through those years in order to hopefully figure this out. Because if you are stressed and trying to make money very quickly, you are going to implode very fast. I think the longer that you have, the more time you're able to buy, you have a much better chance at succeeding. Most people come into the market, they either hit it big their first trade or the first few trades, they get a little lucky because the market's hot, and then they give that all back. And I think the main thing is they just weren't involved long enough. Maybe it was 6 months, a year, and then they blew up. And then they say trading is gambling, it's not for me, you can't make money. And it's just because their approach was wrong and they didn't have a long-term mindset. So in order for this to really work, you have to be incredibly patient and you have to be very committed. So that's something that's important to ask yourself. And now let's touch on the last topic. Are you prepared mentally for the volatility? This is an insane way to make money. This is not a stable 9-to-5 job, and it's not for everyone. So if you don't like this aspect of trading and you've been kind of trying to figure it out and you really hate the volatile up and down times, the uncertainty of income, then it's not going to be good. At first, it was kind of difficult for me to deal with, but I knew the mentality coming in that this is something I really wanted to do. I'm okay with the uncertainty. I make sure that I keep my overhead pretty low. I don't spend money on foolish things. So that way I'm able to kind of deal with that volatility. So when the times are good, great. When they're not so good or kind of flat, I don't panic. So during the process of trying to find consistency, if that is one thing that you really don't like about trading, then this may not be for you. There is a big difference between working for yourself and then a 9-to-5. 9-to-5 is pretty comfortable. You know how much you're going to make as long as you show up and do your job. As far as trading, you can show up every day and still lose money. So you really have to make sure that you're prepared mentally to be able to deal with the good times and the bad times. And also know that that up and down process is never going to go away. There's always going to be the good times. There's always going to be the bad times. And that is pretty much ongoing forever as long as you want to do this. So now to just quickly touch on the topics one more time, full-time or part-time. You do not have to run into this full-time like social media may make it seem. I think that that is a very fast way to fail. Part-time is the way to go in my opinion. And part-time is not really hours-based. It just means that you're doing something else on the side like a part-time job or a part-time gig. This one is very important, and I think more of that part-time mindset will allow a much higher chance at succeeding. And the next one, do you really want this as a serious career or just as a hobby? Are you very passionate about it or are you in it for just the money? If you're in it for just the money, I think that you're going to have a pretty tough time and realize that it's not that easy. And the next is, are you truly patient and committed? In my opinion, I always say, I think it takes 3 years of very hard work every single day, 100% all in the stock market to be able to find consistency. And when I mention 3 years, your gut tells you that's too long. I don't want to put that much work in or commit myself to this for that period of time. Then I think trading may not be for you. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. These are some very important things to address before taking that leap into this crazy world. And then the very last one, are you prepared mentally for the volatility? This is definitely not a 9-to-5. The income can be all over the place and it's not for everyone. So now to answer the question at the last part of the video, because I wanted you to watch up to this point, if you haven't found any consistency after 3 hard years and you've lost a substantial amount of money and you're no longer passionate about trading, which is very important, it's probably a good time to move on or take a break. But remember, this is just my opinion. This is based on my personal experience and a lot of other people that I've talked to. At the end of the day, you have to figure out what works best for you. So that was my 2 cents on when I think somebody should quit trading. I appreciate you watching the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I just wanted to highlight a couple cool things I have to offer. The first is going to be my newsletter watch list. This is going to be what I post on my private Twitter 30 minutes before market open every day. And what I'm doing is I'm doing a very quick highlight of the SPY, the Qs, the bigger picture, the upside level that I'm looking at, the downside level that I'm looking at, the market news or the catalyst that day. And then I'm going to list 4 to 6 names that I'm watching, my favorites that day, and then the catalyst behind them if there's any news, the bigger picture idea, what's going on the daily chart, and then the levels to the upside and the downside. And then I add some mental notes at the bottom, kind of what I'm thinking that day, make sure to keep my expectations in check and follow my process. And the second thing is going to be a one-on-one call. So if you want something that's less of a commitment and you just want to talk to me about my process and how I approach the market, this is going to be great. It's a one-on-one live call for 1 hour. So if you're interested in any one of these 2 things, there will be links in the description below. Feel free to check them out.